Imagine for a moment. You stand in a field at night, far from the city lights, and raise your eyes to the sky. Billions of stars twinkle above you like living cells in a huge body, pulsing with an ancient rhythm. Suddenly, you feel a strange sensation, as if you were looking not just at a cluster of gas and dust, but into the eyes of a living creature of unimaginable size, a creature of which you yourself are a part, like a tiny cell in the vast organism of the cosmos. Greetings, my dear listeners. Welcome to a new episode of our Sleepy Lectures podcast. And please write in the comments what city you're from and what time it is in your area. Tonight, we will embark on an amazing journey through time and space to explore one of the most fascinating ideas that has ever visited the human mind. The notion that our universe is not a lifeless mechanism ticking along according to the laws of physics, but a living, breathing, thinking being. This idea is as old as mankind itself, and at the same time, surprisingly modern. Let's close our eyes for a moment and travel back in time to the distant past, when our ancestors first looked up to the stars. Imagine a primitive man sitting around a fire in the savanna of Africa tens of thousands of years ago. The crackle of dry twigs, the smell of smoke, flickering flames cast dancing shadows on the faces of people gathered in a circle, and above them stretches a vast, starry sky, so clear and close that it seems as if you could reach out and touch the shimmering points of light. For this man, the world was full of life. Not only the life we can see and touch, but also the invisible, spiritual life that permeates every stone, every tree, every drop of water in a stream. This worldview, which we today call animism, was perhaps mankind's first attempt to understand the structure of the universe. And what a profound wisdom it was imbued with. Animism is not just a belief in the spirits of trees and stones, as sometimes simplistically imagined. It is a holistic view of the world in which all of nature has a soul, consciousness, and inner life. Mountains breathe, rivers sing, the wind whispers secrets, and the stars have unhurried conversations with each other in the language of light. In such a world, man is not the master of nature, but its integral part, a younger brother in the great family of living beings. Imagine a shaman somewhere in the Siberian tundra, under the northern lights, which splashes the sky with green and violet waves. He knows these shimmering colors are not just a physical phenomenon, but the breath of the sky itself, his emotions, his thoughts made visible. Each flash of the aurora borealis is a word in the conversation between the earth and the cosmos. part of the great dialogue that has been going on since the creation of the world. In the depths of the African continent, where the red earth smells of rain and spices, ancient beliefs also spoke of the same thing, of a world filled with spirits and forces, of invisible threads binding all living things together. Here, every baobab was not just a tree, but a wise elder, keeping the memory of centuries. Each river was a living being with its own character, its own whims, its own destiny. It is amazing how these ideas, which emerged independently in different corners of the planet, turned out to be strikingly similar. It is as if nature itself whispered the same secret to people in different languages, from the snowy expanses of Siberia to the hot deserts of Australia, from the rainforests of Amazonia to the mountain peaks of Tibet. Everywhere, people felt that they lived not in a dead mechanical world, but in the body of a huge living being. Australia's indigenous peoples, whose culture dates back tens of thousands of years, told of the dream time, an age when ancestral spirits traveled the land, creating landscapes, rivers, mountains, and hills. But this was not a one-off act of creation. The dream time continues even now. Every moment, the earth continues to dream and create itself. Every rock, every valley is a thought in the mind of the great dreamer, part of his endless dream of himself. In Japan, these intuitions took shape in Shintoism, a belief in kami, spirits inhabiting all elements of nature. Here, every mountain was a deity, every waterfall a sacred place where the heavenly touched the earthly. The sakura tree, dropping its pink petals to the ground, was not just a plant, but a manifestation of divine beauty, a reminder of the fragility and impermanence of all things. The American Indians spoke of the Great Spirit pervading all living things, of sacred circles of life where man, animals, plants, and stones were equal participants in the great dance of existence. Their medicine wheels, stone circles laid out on the ground, were not just calendars or astronomical instruments, but symbols of the unity of all living things, reflections of cosmic harmony on Earth. But even when mankind began to develop more complex religious and philosophical systems, this ancient intuition about the living nature of the world did not disappear. It was transformed, enriched with new meanings, but in its essence, it remained the same. The understanding that we live not in a cold, mechanical cosmos, but in the body of a living being of unimaginable size. In India, this idea blossomed into the concept of Brahman, the all-pervading world soul, the absolute reality underlying all that exists. The Upanishads, the ancient sacred texts, said, Tat Tvam Asi. That is you. This meant that the individual soul and the world soul are one and the same, that the drop is not separate from the ocean, but is the ocean itself in miniature. Imagine a sage sitting in lotus posture on the bank of the sacred Ganges, where the water reflects the first rays of dawn. The air is filled with the fragrance of sandalwood and jasmine, and somewhere in the distance, the bells of the temple are sounding. And in this morning silence, he realizes that he is not a separate being observing the world from the outside, but the world itself, knowing itself through him. The river flowing in front of him, the birds singing in the trees, the distant mountains illuminated by the gold of the rising sun. All these are parts of his own being, cells of his cosmic body. In China, similar intuitions were embodied in Taoism, the doctrine of the Tao, the way in which the entire universe moves. The Tao was not an abstract principle, but a living force pulsing in every leaf of bamboo, in every drop of morning dew, in every breath of wind in the mountains. The Taoist sages spoke of qi, the vital energy permeating all things, from the smallest atoms to galaxies floating in the cosmic void. But perhaps nowhere was this idea developed in such depth and detail as in the Jewish mystical tradition, the Kabbalah. Here was born the marvelous concept of Adam Kadmon, the eternal man, the cosmic being who was the universe itself in its perfect form. Imagine a 16th century Kabbalist in the city of Saft, high in the Galilean mountains. The narrow stone streets, lit by the flickering light of oil lamps, led to a small house where a scholarly man bent over ancient texts at a wooden table covered with yellowed scrolls. Outside, a cool night wind blows, bringing the odors of olive groves and dry herbs. And in this silence, broken only by the rustle of turning pages, ideas are born that will overturn the idea of the universe. Adam Kadmon, according to Kabbalah, was not a human being in the ordinary sense of the word. He was the first manifestation of the incomprehensible God, a light structure of unimaginable dimensions, which became the foundation of the entire universe. Imagine a gigantic human figure of pure light, so huge that galaxies would be grains of sand to it. The head of this being is the highest spheres of the spiritual world. The hands are the forces that shape reality. The heart is the source of love and compassion that permeates the entire universe. But the most amazing thing about this concept is that every ordinary human being was considered a microcosm of this macrocosm. The body of each of us reflects the structure of the entire universe. The head corresponds to the higher worlds of wisdom and understanding, the heart to the realms of beauty and compassion. the arms and legs, to the forces that embody spiritual energies in the physical world. This idea of correspondence between the microcosm and the macrocosm was not a unique invention of Kabbalah. It is found in a wide variety of cultures and traditions, as if humanity had independently arrived at the same insight. In Hermeticism, the secret teaching attributed to the legendary Hermes Trismegistus, the idea was expressed in the famous formula, as above, so below. This meant that the processes occurring on a cosmic scale are reflected in the human soul, and what happens in the human soul affects the entire cosmos. Pythagoras, the great Greek philosopher and mathematician, saw this as mathematical harmony. For him, the cosmos and the human body were tuned to the same divine proportions, resonating in unison with the music of the spheres, that celestial sound that is born from the movement of the planets in their orbits. He taught that the human soul was a fragment of the world soul, a spark of divine fire temporarily enclosed in a physical body. Plato developed these ideas in his dialogue Timaeus, where he described how the demiurge, a divine artisan, created the universe as a living being endowed with a soul and mind. The world soul, according to Plato, was created from a mixture of indivisible eternal essence and divided material nature. It permeates the entire space of the cosmos, giving it life and consciousness. Imagine ancient Athens bathed in the golden light of the Mediterranean sun. In the shadow of the porticos of the Academy, philosophers are strolling, having unhurried conversations about the nature of reality. The air is filled with the fragrance of laurel and myrtle. Somewhere in the distance, you can hear the splash of the sea. And here, among the marble columns and statues, an idea is born that will influence the development of human thought for millennia to come. The idea that the universe is not a dead mechanism, but a living, thinking being. But the idea of the world soul did not remain the property of antiquity alone. Like a seed thrown into the fertile soil of human consciousness, it continued to germinate in various epochs and cultures, taking new forms but retaining its essence. During the Renaissance, as Europe awoke from the long slumber of the Middle Ages, these ancient ideas found new life. Imagine 15th century Florence, a city where the workshops smell of turpentine and fresh paint, where Plato's manuscripts are copied and studied in the Medici libraries, where the air is filled with the anticipation of great discoveries. Here, Marsilio Ficino and other Renaissance Platonists were rediscovering the concept of the anima mundi, the world soul. For them, the universe was once again a living organism imbued with divine love and intelligence. They saw in celestial movements not just mechanical processes, but manifestations of a cosmic symphony in which each planet plays its part in the great orchestra of the universe. The music of Pythagoras' spheres took on a new sound in their treatises and poems. Leonardo da Vinci, that titan of the Renaissance, studying the anatomy of the human body by the light of wax candles in his workshop, saw in every muscle, in every vein, a reflection of cosmic processes. His famous drawing of the Vitruvian Man is not just a picture of ideal proportions, but a symbol of the unity of microcosm and macrocosm, of man as a reflection of the entire universe. As time passed, this ancient intuition continued to transform. In the 18th and 19th centuries, when the mechanistic worldview seemed to be finally established in science, the Romantic philosophers turned again to the idea of living nature. Goethe, the great poet and naturalist, wandering through the gardens of Weimar among the flowering linden trees, pondered the one force that transforms a seed into a tree and a star into a planetary system. Schelling, a philosopher of German Romanticism, developed the idea of Naturphilosophie, the doctrine of nature as a living, developing organism. For him, nature was not a dead material for human activity, but a subject with its own inner life and goals. In every crystal, he saw a striving for perfect form. In every plant, a longing for light. In every animal, a glimpse of consciousness. But perhaps the most grandiose attempt to describe the universe as a living being was made by Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Imagine a professor's office at the University of Berlin in the early 19th century. Outside the window, the autumn wind is blowing the last leaves off the linden trees. Wood crackles in the fireplace, casting dancing shadows on the book-lined walls. And here, in this silence, broken only by the creak of pen on paper, one of the most ambitious philosophical systems in the history of mankind is born. For Hegel, all reality was a manifestation of the absolute spirit, the cosmic consciousness that cognizes itself through the development of nature and history. This absolute spirit was not an abstract idea, but a living, developing entity. Every flower that blossoms in spring, every star that is born in the galactic nebula, every human thought, all these were moments of self-discovery of the absolute spirit. The history of mankind, according to Hegel, was not a random series of events, but a logical unfolding of cosmic consciousness. Each epoch, each national spirit, Greek, Roman, Germanic, represented a certain stage in the self-cognition of the absolute spirit. Wars and revolutions, the rise and fall of civilizations, all this was the inner life of the universe, its way of thinking about itself. But while European philosophers were creating complex metaphysical systems, in other parts of the world, ancient ideas about a living universe persisted in a more immediate mythological form. Cosmogonic myths, accounts of how the world was born, almost always represented the universe as a living being, or as being born from a living being. One of the most universal mythological symbols is the world egg. Imagine the absolute void, the darkness before the beginning of time. And here in this darkness appears a huge egg containing all the potencies of the future world. In the Indian tradition, this is Hiranyagarbha, the golden germ from which Brahma, the creator of the universe, is born. In the Orphic mysteries of ancient Greece, Phaneth, the first god who brought light into the world, hatches from a silver egg. In Finnish mythology, a duck swimming in primordial waters lays an egg from which the entire universe is born. Imagine these cold northern waters, dark and calm, where there is neither heaven nor earth yet. And then a duck, the only living thing in the world, appears on the surface of these waters. It lays an egg, and when it breaks, its shell becomes the vault of heaven. The white becomes the clouds. The yolk becomes the sun. In Chinese mythology, Pan Gu, the first giant man, is born from a cosmic egg. For 18,000 years, he grows inside the egg. And when he finally hatches, he finds that heaven and earth are still fused together. So he takes an and begins to separate them, each day raising the sky higher and higher. And when his mission is complete, and the sky is safely separated from the earth, he dies, and his body becomes the universe itself. His breath turns into wind and clouds, his voice into thunder, his left eye into the sun, his right eye into the moon, his hair and beard into stars. These myths are strikingly similar to each other, despite the fact that they originated in completely different cultures, separated by thousands of kilometers and centuries. It is as if mankind intuitively understood something fundamental about the nature of reality, that the world did not come into being as a result of a mechanical process, but was born as a living being is born. In Scandinavian mythology, the world is created from the body of the slain giant Ymir. His flesh becomes the earth, his blood the seas and rivers, his bones the mountains, and his skull the vault of heaven. Ancient Indian texts describe the sacrifice of the cosmic man Purusha, from whose body parts the whole world is created. Brahmins are born from his mouth, Kshatriyas from his hands, Vaishyas from his hips, Shudras from his feet. Even in the Russian spiritual tradition, we find similar images. In the Book of Doves, an ancient spiritual verse, the world is created from Adam's body. We have white light from the face of God, the red sun from the eyes of God, the bright month from the Temechek, the dark night from the nape of the neck, the morning and evening dawn from the eyebrows of God, the frequent stars from the curls of God. All these myths are united by one common intuition. The world is not a mechanical construction, but a living body, the parts of which are connected with each other, not by mechanical links, but by organic, living relations. Each part of this body participates in the life of the whole, and the whole lives in each part. This intuition did not disappear with the development of science. On the contrary, in the 20th century, it found new life in the work of thinkers who tried to bridge the gap between scientific and spiritual understanding of the world. John Christian Smuts, a South African philosopher and politician, published his book Holism and Evolution in 1926, in which he proposed the revolutionary concept of evolutionary holism. Imagine the African savanna at dawn, when the air is still cool and the horizon is colored in soft pink tones. Somewhere in the distance, a herd of antelope, grazes, and vultures circle overhead. And in this majestic panorama of life, Smuts saw the manifestation of a single cosmic principle, a holistic impulse that drives evolution from the simplest forms to ever more complex and perfect ones. For Smuts, the universe was not a collection of separate parts, but a single organism evolving from matter to life, from life to consciousness, from consciousness to spirit. Each atom, each cell, each living being possessed its own field, an invisible sphere of influence that linked them to the world around them. These fields interpenetrated and interacted, creating a unified fabric of reality. Matter, according to Smuts, was not a dead substance, but concentrated structural energy. Energy, on the other hand, was a pervasive organizing force that participated in the creation and maintenance of wholeness. It linked animate and inanimate nature within a unified field of existence. The human mind in this system appeared as the highest form of holism, the ability of the universe to cognize itself. Through human consciousness, the cosmos was given the opportunity to look at itself from the outside, to appreciate its beauty, to understand its laws. We were not casual observers of the cosmic spectacle, but instruments of the universe's self-knowledge. Smuts criticized the mechanistic worldview that presented the whole as a simple sum of parts. For him, the whole was always greater than the sum of its parts. It possessed new qualities that the individual elements did not. A symphony orchestra creates music that is qualitatively different from the simple set of sounds of individual instruments. A living organism manifests the properties of life that its constituent chemical elements do not have. Evolution, according to Smuts, went through several stages of increasing integrity. First, physical and chemical particles were united into inanimate structures, crystals, minerals, planets. Then life emerged with its functional synthesis, the ability to sustain itself, grow, reproduce. Then the nervous system and higher nervous activity of animals developed. Finally, human consciousness, with its ability to self-governance and creativity, appeared. But evolution did not stop at man. The next stages were to be a conscious society, centralized state administration, and finally, the highest worldview ideals and absolute values. These ideals acted as creative factors in the creation of a new spiritual world and a new world order. In the 20th century, the idea of a living universe was developed in the works of many thinkers. Russian philosopher Nikolai Sorokin, in his work Matryoshka Doll of the Universe in Image and Likeness, suggested that we live inside a huge man, a cosmic being for whom galaxies are cells and star systems are molecules. Imagine this dizzying prospect. What we perceive as the vast cosmos with its billions of galaxies is actually the interior of a giant living being. We are like microbes, living in the human body, unaware of the existence of the body as a whole. To them, liver cells or lung cells seem like separate worlds, and blood vessels like interstellar highways. The Danish mystic and philosopher Martinus Thompson developed similar ideas in his multi-volume work, The Third Testament. For him, the universe was an eternal, limitless, and all-embracing living being, consisting of living beings within living beings, like Matryoshka dolls. God, in his understanding, was not a separate person, but the universe in its entirety, including both male and female principles, and consciousness as the governing force of evolution. These bold 20th century ideas were not mere philosophical speculation. They reflected a deep intuition that the mechanistic understanding of the world that had dominated science for the past several centuries might be missing something fundamentally important about the nature of reality. Vladimir On, a contemporary Russian thinker, takes an even more radical step in this direction in his work, The Mystery of Cosmic Illusion. He argues that the physical-mechanical approach fundamentally cannot reveal the true essence of the cosmos. Imagine a scientist who spends his whole life studying a cell under a microscope, analyzing its chemical composition, describing metabolic processes, but does not suspect that this cell is a part of a living human being. For Mir On, the universe is a real living body with an organ aggregate structure. What we call stars are actually atoms of this gigantic organism. Star clusters and associations are its molecular structures. Galaxies are the cellular formations of the cosmic body. And those grandiose processes that astronomers observe in the cosmos, birth and death of stars, collisions of galaxies, expansion of the universe, all these are nothing but ordinary physiological processes of a living organism, only on a scale that our limited mind can hardly imagine. Imagine for a moment this startling prospect. You are lying on the grass at night, looking out at the Milky Way, that luminous road stretching across the sky. Billions of stars twinkle in the cosmic darkness, and you feel like a tiny grain of sand in the face of infinity. But suddenly, you realize that you are not looking at a cold void dotted with random glowing dots, but at the insides of a living thing. Every star is an atom in its body. Every nebula is a cell. Every galaxy is an organ in its body. In this picture of the world, we saw humans are like microorganisms living inside the human body. Just as a bacterium floating in the bloodstream cannot encompass a human being as a whole, so we, being inside a cosmic body, cannot perceive the universe as a single living organism. To a bacterium, the liver and lungs seem like separate worlds connected by mysterious tunnels of blood vessels. For us, galaxies seem like islands of matter in an ocean of emptiness, connected by gravitational threads and flows of dark matter. But if we accept this view, then many of the mysteries of modern cosmology get a surprisingly simple explanation. Why is the universe so finely tuned for the existence of life? Why do the fundamental constants have precisely the values that make the formation of atoms, stars, planets, and ultimately living things possible? From a mechanistic point of view, this seems like an incredible coincidence. But if the universe is itself a living being, then this tuning becomes natural as the tuning of the human body to keep its constituent cells alive. Mirhe goes even further, arguing that matter is inherently intelligent and capable of self-organization, precisely because it is the matter of a living body. The universe is stable, not because it is governed by blind physical laws, but because it is a living, self-developing system that maintains its homeostasis like any living organism. If stars are indeed the atoms of the universe, this means that the cosmos is not infinite, but finite, just as the human body is finite, even though it may seem infinite to the microorganisms living in it. This idea echoes some modern cosmological theories about the closedness of space and the finiteness of the observable universe. Boris Astafiev, a Russian scientist and philosopher, develops similar ideas in his theory of a unified living universe. His approach is more scientific. He tries to formulate laws that govern the life of the cosmos as a whole. Central to his theory is the law of Mar-CS, a multi-level asymmetric equilibrium self-developing system. Imagine a research institute somewhere near Moscow, where a small building with laboratories is nestled among pine and birch trees. It's late evening. The light is on in the windows, and in one of the classrooms, a scientist is bent over formulas, trying to describe mathematically what ancient sages understood intuitively: the living nature of the cosmos, the rustle of pages, the ticking of a clock on the wall, the distant noise of the night forest outside the window. And in this silence, a new understanding of evolution as a single cosmic process is born. Astafiev proposes the laws of creation of life, which allow us to decipher evolutionary spirals and time frames of natural phenomena. His theory excludes the concept of the Big Bang as a single event, replacing it with the idea of the cyclical development of the living universe. Life, in his understanding, is not a random phenomenon that arose on one of the planets, but a fundamental property of matter manifested at all levels of organization, from elementary particles to galactic clusters. These modern concepts of a living universe force us to take a fresh look at one of the most debated issues of modern cosmology, the so-called fine-tuning argument. Proponents of this argument claim that the fundamental constants of our universe, gravitational force, proton mass, fine structure constant, and many others, are tuned with such incredible precision that the slightest change in them would make the existence of atoms, stars, planets, and life impossible. The probability of such a precise tuning occurring by chance seems negligible. Imagine walking into a huge room with a grand piano and finding that all of its strings are tuned in perfect harmony, capable of producing the most beautiful music. What is the probability that this happened by chance? Isn't it more logical to assume that the piano was tuned by a skilled craftsman? But critics of the fine-tuning argument point out several important problems with this reasoning. First, we do not know whether these constants could have been different. Perhaps they must of necessity have exactly the values they have, by virtue of some deeper laws that we do not yet know. Secondly, the so-called anthropic principle worked. We find ourselves in a universe that is capable of producing observers, simply because in any other universe we would not exist, and there would be no one to marvel at its properties. It is like the surprise of a puddle at the fact that the hole it is in fits its shape so perfectly. Life adapted to the universe. Not the universe was created for life. If the physical constants were different, life would have evolved in different forms, adapted to different conditions. We know, for example, of the existence of pacifers, microscopic creatures that can survive in conditions that would kill any other life forms we know of. They can survive temperatures close to absolute zero, huge doses of radiation, the vacuum of outer space. Who knows what life forms might have arisen in a universe with different physical laws. In addition, the fine-tuning argument suffers from anthropocentrism. It considers only conditions favorable to our own carbon-based form of life, ignoring the possibility of other forms of organizing matter that we might call living. The universe as a whole does not appear to be fine-tuned for humanity at all. Most of the cosmos is a cold void, deadly to any life forms we know of. But perhaps the most interesting objection to the fine-tuning argument is that an omnipotent creator would not need any fine-tuning at all. An omnipotent being is not limited by any rules or parameters. It could have created a universe out of any material and with any laws. As some philosophers joke, God could create the universe out of cheese, and we would live perfectly well in a cheese reality. It is also illogical to assume that an intelligent creator would create billions of galaxies only to have life arise on one tiny planet in one of them. This would be an extremely inefficient use of resources, even by human standards, let alone divine ones. Multiverse theory offers another explanation for the apparent fine-tuning. If there are an infinite or very large number of universes with different physical laws and constants, then our existence in one of the few universes capable of generating life ceases to be surprising. We simply could not observe ourselves in any other universe. Imagine an endless ocean of soap bubbles, each representing a separate universe with its own laws of physics. Most of these bubble universes are empty and lifeless. In some, there are no atoms. In others, no stars can form. In others, time flows backwards. But in some rare bubbles, conditions are such that galaxies, stars, planets, and life arise. We naturally find ourselves in one of these rare bubbles simply because they are the only ones where observers could have appeared. But the idea of a living universe offers another perspective on this problem. If the cosmos is indeed a living organism, then its fine-tuning becomes not an amazing coincidence, but a natural result of self-regulation of a living system. Just as the human organism maintains body temperature, blood acidity, and thousands of other parameters within the narrow limits necessary for cellular life. So the cosmic organism can maintain physical constants within the limits necessary for the existence of its constituent structures. In this perspective, we are not accidental witnesses of the cosmic spectacle, but full participants in the life of the universe. Each of our thoughts, each of our actions affects the state of the cosmic organism, just as the state of each cell affects the health of a human being. We are not separate from the cosmos. We are the way the cosmos thinks about itself, feels, cognises its own nature. This idea finds unexpected parallels in modern science. The Gaia hypothesis, proposed by James Lovelock, considers the Earth as a single living organism where the atmosphere, oceans, soil, and all living things form a complex, self-regulating system. The planet's climate, the composition of the atmosphere, and the temperature of the oceans are maintained within the limits favorable for life due to feedbacks between all components of the Earth system. If this is true for the Earth, why not extend this principle to the entire universe? Perhaps galaxies, stars, planets, and all forms of life form a single, self-regulating system on a cosmic scale. Dark matter and dark energy, which make up most of the universe but remain a mystery to modern science, may turn out to be analogs of the nervous system or blood vessels of a cosmic organism. The idea of the universe as a living being has not only profound poetic beauty, but also important practical implications for our understanding of man's place in the world. If we are indeed cell in the body of a cosmic organism, then our relationship with the world around us takes on a completely different meaning. The current ecological crisis may be a reflection of the disease of the Earth's organism, caused by the activities of one of its species, the human mind. We behave like cancer cells that have forgotten their connection to the organism and have begun to multiply uncontrollably, consuming resources and poisoning their environment. But if we realize ourselves as part of a living planetary and eventually cosmic organism, it becomes clear that destroying the environment is tantamount to suicide. Imagine a quiet morning in the forest, when the first rays of the sun are breaking through the leaves, and the air is filled with the scent of needles and damp earth. Birds start their morning concert. A brook somewhere murmurs. Last year's leaves crunch softly under your feet. At such moments, one feels especially keenly connected to the living nature, realizing that you are not a separate being, observing the world from the outside, but a part of the unified organism of life. Indigenous peoples, who retained the animistic worldview, intuitively understood this truth. For them, every tree, every river, every mountain were not resources to be exploited, but relatives with whom one should maintain harmonious relations. Hunting and gathering were accompanied by rituals of gratitude, requests for forgiveness from the killed animals, promises to take only what was necessary. In our time, this ancient wisdom is being revived in the form of deep ecology and eco-psychology. Scientists and philosophers are beginning to realize that the technocratic approach to nature, based on the ideal of conquest and control, leads to a dead end. It is necessary to restore a sense of the sacredness of nature, an understanding of its intrinsic value, independent of human needs. If the earth is truly a living being, it has its own cycles, its own rhythms, its own needs. Climate changes, mass extinctions of species, pollution of oceans. Perhaps these are symptoms of the disease of the planetary organism, its attempts to restore the disturbed balance. And our task as intelligent beings is to learn to read these signals, to understand the needs of the Earth organism, and to coordinate our activities with them. But understanding of the living nature of the cosmos opens up even broader prospects. If galaxies are organs of the cosmic body, and stars are its cells, then the birth and death of stars, the formation of planetary systems, and the emergence of life are all parts of a single process of growth and development of the universe as a living being. In this perspective, the search for extraterrestrial life takes on a new meaning. We are not just looking for other inhabitants of the cosmos, but other members of the cosmic family, other forms of self-consciousness of the universe. Each planet on which life arises, each civilization that achieves rationality, is a new organ of the cosmic organism's senses, a new way of its self-knowledge. Imagine a moment in the distant future when humanity finally meets another intelligent civilization. The ships of two worlds meet somewhere in interstellar space, against a background of twinkling stars and luminous nebulae. And at this moment, not just contact between two species takes place, but the connection of two neural networks of the cosmic brain, the exchange of information between different parts of the self-conscious universe. Perhaps this is what evolution is moving towards: the creation of a cosmic mind capable of embracing the universe as a whole. The development of technology, which seems to us to be a rapid progress, can only be the formation of the nervous system of a planetary and then cosmic organism. The internet, linking billions of people into a single information network. Artificial intelligence, capable of processing gigantic amounts of data. Spacecraft that are our senses in deep space. All these may be parts of the emerging planetary mind. Quantum physics opens us an amazing picture of the world, where all particles appear to be bound by instantaneous correlations, where observation influences the observed, where the boundary between subject and object becomes blurred. The principle of quantum entanglement shows that particles, once interacted, remain bound regardless of the distance between them. A change in the state of one particle instantly affects the state of another, even if they are at opposite ends of the universe. Isn't this an indication that the universe is really a single organism where all parts are connected by invisible threads? Perhaps quantum entanglement is a manifestation of the nervous system of a cosmic being, a way of instantaneous transmission of information between its different parts. Ancient sages intuitively understood this connectedness of everything to everything else. In Indian philosophy, there is a beautiful metaphor of Indra's net, an infinite network of jewels where each stone reflects all the others. A change in one stone is instantly reflected in all others, creating an endless play of reflections. In the same way, in the living universe, each being, each particle reflects the whole in itself and influences the state of all other parts. The Buddhist concept of interdependent origination says the same thing. All phenomena arise in dependence on all others. There is nothing that exists independently and separately. A flower cannot exist without earth, water, sun, air, seed, gardener. But neither can the earth be earth without the plants that enrich it with their roots and fallen leaves. The sun cannot be the sun without the planets that reflect its light. Everything is interconnected in an infinite network of relationships. This profound connectedness is manifested not only in the physical world, but also in the realm of consciousness. Carl Gustav Jung discovered the phenomenon of the collective unconscious, a common psychic space from which people of all times and peoples draw images and symbols. Archetypes, universal psychic structures manifested in myths, fairy tales, dreams, indicate the existence of a unified field of consciousness of which individual minds are parts. Perhaps the collective unconscious is a manifestation of the cosmic organism's memory, a repository of all the experience accumulated by life over billions of years of evolution. Every thought, every experience, every discovery becomes part of this cosmic memory, influencing the development of all living things. The idea of morphic fields, proposed by biologist Rupert Sheldrake, takes this intuition in a scientific direction. According to his hypothesis, each species of living creature creates an information field that influences the behavior and development of all members of that species. When enough individuals learn a new skill or mode of behavior, this pattern becomes available to all others through the morphic field. If this hypothesis is correct, then the development of consciousness, spiritual insights, and creative discoveries of some people automatically become the property of all mankind, gradually raising the overall level of awareness. Each person reaching a higher level of awareness contributes to the evolution of consciousness of the entire species. In this context, ancient spiritual practices, meditation, prayer, contemplation, take on special significance. They can be not just individual exercises for personal development, but ways of tuning into the finer levels of the cosmic organism, methods of reconnecting with the living universe. Imagine a person sitting in meditation on a mountaintop at dawn. The air is clear and pure. The horizon is colored in soft pink and golden tones, and a sea of clouds spreads out below. In this silence, broken only by the breath of the wind, the boundaries between inner and outer begin to dissolve. The meditator ceases to feel that he or she is a separate being observing the world from the outside, and begins to feel that he or she is part of the unified field of consciousness that permeates all of existence. Perhaps it is at such moments that man is closest to a true understanding of his nature and his place in the cosmos. He ceases to be a random product of blind evolutionary forces and realizes himself as a means of self-discovery of the universe, as an instrument through which the cosmos studies and learns about itself. This perspective radically changes the meaning of human life. We live not to accumulate as much material wealth or pleasure as possible, but to contribute to the growth of consciousness, to the evolution of the mind, to the development of the cosmos's capacity for self-knowledge and self-transformation. Every act of creativity, every expression of love and compassion, every endeavor to understand the truth contributes to this grand process. An artist creating a beautiful painting, a scientist discovering a new law of nature, a parent raising a child in an atmosphere of love, a teacher imparting knowledge to students. They all participate in the growth and development of cosmic consciousness. Death, in this perspective, ceases to be the final end of existence and becomes a transformation, a transition of consciousness into other forms of being. Just as a cell in the human body dies, but its contribution to the life of the organism continues to exist, so individual consciousness, completing its journey in one form, can continue to exist as part of the wider structures of cosmic mind. Ancient traditions have always been aware of this. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Tibetan Bardo Thodol, various descriptions of the afterlife in different cultures, all of them may be attempts to describe the processes that occur with consciousness after the death of the physical body. Perhaps what we call death is actually a birth into the broader dimensions of cosmic existence. But as long as we are alive in this form, as long as we possess these bodies and these minds, our task is to realize to the fullest our potential as sense organs and thinking organs of the cosmic organism. This means developing all our faculties: intellectual, emotional, creative, spiritual. It means cultivating awareness, expanding the sphere of compassion, deepening our understanding of ourselves and the world. It also means taking responsibility for the state of the level of the cosmic organism that is available to us: our planet, our biosphere, our human community. We cannot influence the movement of galaxies or the life of stars, but we can take care of the health of the Earth organism of which we are a part. Perhaps it is now, in the era of ecological crisis and global challenges, that humanity is on the threshold of a new stage of evolution. The crisis forces us to realize our interdependence, to understand that we are all passengers of one spaceship, cells of one planetary organism. Global communication, networks, international cooperation, growing ecological consciousness. All of these may be signs of the formation of a planetary mind capable of thinking and acting as one. Perhaps the next step will be the expansion of this consciousness beyond Earth to include other life forms we can find in the universe. In the meantime, we can just sit under the starry sky and ponder our place in this amazing cosmos. Billions of stars shine above us, each of which may be home to planets and perhaps even life. Somewhere in the depths of space, there may be civilizations that have long understood their role in the life of the universe and have learned to live in harmony with the cosmic organism. Perhaps they are looking at our little blue planet and waiting with hope that humanity too will realize its true nature and take its place in the family of intelligent beings of the cosmos. Perhaps our time is a time of awakening, a time when the universe through us begins to realize itself. And in this silence of the night, under this starry dome, we can feel ourselves a part of something infinitely bigger and more beautiful. We can feel the pulse of cosmic life in the beating of our heart, hear the breath of the universe in the rustling of the wind, see the thoughts of the cosmic mind in the dance of the stars in the sky. Good night, my dear listeners. May your dreams be filled with stars, and your awakening bring a new understanding of your place in this wonderful living universe. See you in the next journey through the vastness of human knowledge and wisdom. Take care of yourself, and remember, you are not alone in this cosmos. You are its integral and precious part.